One of the big trades we've been talking about after the weekend has been the short sterling trade against a number of different currencies. We're awaiting the speech by Theresa May, the British Prime Minister, to give us some indication as to how either negotiations are going or the shape of the negotiations to come under pressure from opposition parties. How much she will say remains to be seen, but of course the big expectation is that we'll get a clearer picture potentially as to just how hard potentially Brexit could well be. Let's talk now a little bit more about the way in which the trade is going, the short trade is going, with Josh Mahony, with a look at, first of all, sterling against the dollar, because this has been the big move that we saw. The flash crash back on the 7th of October took us down to 118, and here we are today trading intraday around just a little bit over that level.
Yes. But I mean, this is not necessarily something that's unexpected. Yes, we did see the big gap lower, but ultimately this is just trading in the direction that we're expecting. You can see that we did see this rising wedge pattern in play. We saw the breakdown from there. We saw the break below 123.88, and then it all pointed towards a continued deterioration of the pound, which has come through, and crucially we've now gapped lower below this 120.82. That was the key hurdle that over the last week we failed to break through, and there was question marks over, how much of a bounce could we see from here. Of course, you did see tentative signs coming in on Thursday that we were going to see a little bit of an extended move higher. That didn't necessarily come into fruition. Of course, the day ended up in the red, and now we've seen a rally earlier today. We gapped lower, we moved back into 120.82, but have sustained price action below that. So I think that's going to be really a crucial level to be looking out for here. Are we going to hold price below 120.82? If we do, that could be the end of that short-term rally, and we'll start to sell off once more. If we don't, you're going to be looking at this level here, 121.22, that previous swing low, and then closing the gap fully back to 121.82. But ultimately, I think whichever way you look at it, I think we're going to go further downside. And if you can see here, in terms of this previous peak that we've got, you can potentially be looking for shorts around about this kind of area if it comes into it, 121.65 kind of area. I don't think it necessarily will, but if it did, then ultimately you just play it as it comes. I think we're going to see further downside. I think Theresa May is going to have to come out with a fairly hardline rhetoric about this whole hard Brexit thing. I don't think she has a choice, because quite frankly, if she doesn't, then she's going to have a very difficult time when it comes to negotiations.
What about the sterling yen trade? Important as much as I think you've pointed out already, the fact that we've got this risk on trade at the moment, but nonetheless money seems to be going in to the Japanese yen. We've got the pound against the yen at something like a 2-month low.
Yeah, exactly. So it's an interesting one because of the fact that we've seen the yen actually gaining ground. But it doesn't necessarily make that much sense because of the fact that actually we're seeing that the stock market's doing pretty well anyway. So the interesting thing is, what if we start to see the markets turn around? What if we start to see some weakness coming into play for the stock markets? Would that lead to a big appreciation in terms of the yen? Probably would, and people will get into the yen. At the same time, people don't want to be into the pound, so this could see significant downside if we were to see the indices start to turn over. In terms of the daily time frame, we can see here we have been moving lower in a very considered manner, and then that started to ramp up quite heavily. Again, we'll go into the 4-hour chart. We can see we had this trend line, previous support, and then we got that breakthrough, newfound resistance, and since then we've been selling off. Now we've got this gap lower, we're starting to turn higher. We've got a good chance that we could see some sort of retracement back into close out this gap, but I think that would be a precursor to further downside for this pair anyway. If I get rid of a couple of these fibs and look out for a couple of the deeper retracements, we can see here 139.30s, 139.60s kind of area. We'd be lucky to get an entry there, quite honestly. More likely will probably come into previous support if we see further gains. But whichever way you look at it, I think we're going to see another move lower for sterling yen.
Okay, thanks Josh. It's all about risk to reward as the way you get in. Of course, don't forget to put your stops on any trade that you put out there, and that losses can exceed deposits.